The company, which became financially stronger thanks to the production of engines for motorcycles and aircraft for the Third Reich, having washed away the reputation stain, has become one of the most successful auto manufacturers in the world with multi-billion-dollar profits. Turning points in the history of BMW. Which car of the German concern weighed only 360 kilograms? And how did branded nostrils appear?
On the eve of the First World War, around 1911-1912. All over Europe, such a competition has begun, one might say. Or a race about aviation. The first engines appeared, which could already lift homemade planes.
Among those who subtly felt the trends of the era was the German entrepreneur Karl Rapp. In 1913, on the outskirts of Munich, he opened the Bayerische Flugzeug-Werke, that is, the Bavarian aircraft factory.
But things didn't go very well, because it required a lot of investment. And for engines, even at that time, it was very, very difficult. But there was such a leap in 1916, already during the First World War.
In 1917, Rapp renamed the company Bayerische Motorenwerk, that is, Bavarian Motor Plant. However, he soon left the enterprise, according to the official version, for health reasons. Another reason is his failure to fulfill a 600-engine order for Austria-Hungary. Austrian industrialist Franz Popp took over leadership and shortened the name to BMW.
But the First World War passes and ends, and Germany falls under the great sanctions of that period. According to the Versailles Peace Agreement, there should be no troops, no tanks, no ships, and even more so airplanes in Germany. And not that it should not be, but all these developments were simply suspended. And there were commissions that made sure that nothing was done at these factories.
In order to survive in the new conditions, the company began to produce helminthic systems for trains. And in 1923, the first motorcycle from BMW appeared, the R32.
And they entered the European arena and then on the world stage to this day, because their engines and motorcycles have a cardan transmission system. They have already invented a stroller, that is, they had a three-wheeled motorcycle. This system is known to this day. It works and is very popular with many people.
In the 1920s, the German company begins to ignore international prohibitions, and again it breaks into the aviation industry. A company from the States helps him in this.
Pratt & Whitney, an American firm, supplies engines under license. What does BMW do? BMW simply converts all spare parts and the entire engine from the inch system to the metric system. They create an engine that is used in the Junkers 52 aircraft.
The release of these engines led to advertising that interpreted the BMW logo. On a poster in 1929, the company inscribed its round sign in the propeller of the aircraft. Customers believed the logo's meaning was intended by manufacturers from the start. In fact, at first this image did not carry any symbolism, but BMW decided not to break the myth, but they borrowed white and blue colors from the flag of Bavaria. In 1936-39, Ju-52s equipped with BMW engines took part in the Spanish Civil War as part of the German Condor Legion. Later Hitler said that Franco should erect a monument to these planes because they saved Spain from the Bolsheviks. From the very beginning, the Junkers were conceived as bombers. At first they were disguised as civilian aircraft.
Everyone knows that there was even a Berlin-Moscow flight, which connected these two capitals before World War II, and a joint campaign was created that served these aircraft in Moscow. They flew quietly. It was very reliable. The aircraft system itself was reliable, as well as the engines produced by BMW.
By the way, it was one of Hitler's favorite aircraft.
During his promotion before the election, Hitler used the Ju-52 directly and flew a large number of thousands of kilometers, both in Germany, and flew to Italy.
World War II for BMW, of course, was a golden time. The Junkers 52 with 3 engines from the Bavarian plant was one of Germany's main military transport aircraft.
It is used in all amphibious operations that Nazi Germany did.
And it was also at BMW Enterprises that engines were manufactured for the first serial jet fighter in history, Messerschmitt 262.
It was a very big step forward. Why exactly? They are fast, up to 800 kilometers per hour. No plane of that time simply could reach such a speed. It could catch up with any fighter, any bomber.
Another segment that helped BMW thrive in World War II was powerful motorcycles for the Wehrmacht.
We even know not only from films, but also from archival literature. All reconnaissance units were motorcycle and reinforced armored personnel carriers. And the motorcycles were BMW, R12, R71, which, even before World War II, were made under license under the M72 brand. These are identical motorcycles.
The war ended, and they had to pay for collaboration with the Nazis. By the way, many German business giants cooperated with the Hitler regime at that time.
For example, Hugo Boss Enterprises sewed uniforms for SS units, SA assault units and Hitlerjugend. The German industrialist Hugo Henkel, who headed the Henkel Company at the beginning of the war, was a member of the NSDAP. Hundreds of prisoners of war worked for the brand, and the Alliance Company, for example, insured all employees of Auschwitz.
All these entrepreneurs are not just some individual entrepreneurs, but people who owned large empires. They started saying that they didn't know where it was all going and they couldn't do anything. Because the Nazis were in power, they were crushed by them.
However, it was not profitable for the Allies to raise all these companies to the ground, and they gave the collaborators the opportunity to make amends financially.
Enterprises where Western workers worked, who were driven as slaves, they were paid, and are still paid to their relatives, who is still alive to this day, a small amount of money every month. By and large companies BMW, Henkel, thus bought off the states, Allies, who had claims against them.
Also, as compensation, the Allies removed part of the equipment from the factories of these companies, in particular from BMW. Although BMW got firmly on its feet thanks to the production of aircraft engines and motorcycles, today it is definitely associated with cars, and the brand took the first step in this direction back in the interwar period.
In 1928, BMW bought out Automobile Work Eisenach, which a year earlier had acquired a license from the British Austin Motor Company to produce the Dixie car, which was a modification of the Austin 7.
So the Dixie became the first car that BMW began to produce.
There was money, there was a desire. They just wanted to somehow enter this market quickly. I think that more or less the same thing is happening now with the Chinese. It was happening. They bought entire brands, which already had portfolios.
It was a compact car that could accommodate 4 people in the cabin and reached a speed of only 75 kilometers per hour. It was produced for a short time, until 1931. The first car developed at the Bavarian plant was the BMW 303.
They clearly understood that the aerodynamics and speed of the car were already closely related. And to make the radiators not the same as they were vertical, familiar to everyone, but to do something a little better, they were already struggling with aerodynamics. They tilted the grille and tried to make it more optical. They divided the radiator into 2 halves and bent it.
From there, BMW's signature design features appeared, the so-called nostrils or minks.
It was such a successful project from BMW's point of view. It drove well and was reliable. It must be clearly understood that then there were no such crazy successes in terms of controllability and obedience. The main thing was that the car drove normally and that it did not break down. This was the basis for BMW to become a popular car. Plus there was a beautiful design.
After World War II, in war-torn and sanction-squeezed defeated Germany, people demanded the simplest and most affordable cars.
So simple that they had to revise the whole concept of the automotive industry, and they started with some kind of hybrid of a motorcycle and a car. This post-war machine was called a set. Although it wasn't BMW's own development either, it was another license they were buying.
Actually, the design of the Assetto was developed in Italy. It began to roll off the BMW assembly line in 1955. Only 2 people could fit in such a microcar.
Basically, it had a motorcycle engine, as there were no scooters at the time, just a small engine that allowed the car to move. But it was purely a process of movement, no speed, no pleasure. It's just from point A to point B, not on a horse, not on a cart, but still in some kind of car, with a roof over your head.
And such a bizarre machine weighed only 360 kilograms.
Among the Germans, Isetta received the nicknames bullet, bubble and rolling egg. The French called their modification of this car, jug of yogurt, Brazilians, ball, Chileans, bullet. The name bubble car also sticked.
And the most interesting thing is that it was so simple that the front part was used to enter it. The door was actually a windshield. You sat down. The door opened for you along with the steering wheel and certain analogs of control. You got into the car, closed this door behind you.
Gradually, Germany recovered from the Second World War. People became richer, and the pace of life became faster. Naturally, expectations from cars became higher. So in 1956 the world saw the BMW 503, a luxury car, powerful and elegant. The body is in two versions, coupe or convertible. Interior upholstery is also a choice, fabric or leather.
Since that time, some certain things have begun, which we know about BMW to this day, that it is a sporty, emotional, hot brand, which is one thing we are happy to drive.
However, commercially the 503s were a complete failure. Very few Germans could afford a car priced at 29,000 German marks. As a result, the company produced only 412 of these cars. In the 1970s the Germans launched another of their famous models, the BMW 3.0 CSL, which car enthusiasts dubbed the Batmobile. It did not appear in films or comics about the Black Knight, but it got his nickname because of its large aggressive wing. The abbreviation CSL stands for Coupe Sport Lightweight. That is, Coupe, Sport, Lightness.
This is such a traditional name in order to emphasize the most extreme versions of cars. It's no longer just chic. It was a car suitable for racing, but allowed for use on a public road.